Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into the incredible and frankly almost unbelievable life of Colonel Harland Sanders. Now, you definitely know the face, but I'm willing to bet you don't know the real story behind it. By the time he passed away, the company he founded, Kentucky Fried Chicken, was an absolute global juggernaut. We're talking 6,000 locations in 48 different countries, pulling in $2 billion a year. I mean, that is a legacy anyone would dream of.
But the way he actually built this empire, it is not what you think. It wasn't some brilliant overnight success. In fact, his story is really a journey that was defined by decades of just crushing failure.
So to really understand how the Colonel finally won, you first have to see just how many times he lost. And I mean really lost.
His early life was just a complete whirlwind of starts and stops. After his dad died, he was cooking for the whole family at just 7 years old. He dropped out of school, lied about his age to get into the army, and then when he tried to become a lawyer, his career literally ended because he got into a fistfight in the middle of a courtroom with his own client. Seriously, every single time he seemed to get a foothold, something went horribly wrong.
I mean, look at this resume. He tried his hand at just about everything you can imagine, and a pretty clear pattern started to emerge. He was fired for brawling, fired for insubordination, and his own businesses just went completely bust. It really seemed like he was destined to be a total footnote in history.
And let's be totally clear, this wasn't all just bad luck. His own biographer pointed out that a lot of his failures were self-inflicted. They were the product of a difficult, fiery personality that would end up defining his entire life, for better and, as we'll see, for worse. But then, everything changed. This stubborn, bull-headed man finally stumbled upon the one thing that would actually stick: his passion for chicken.
So picture this. It's 1930, right in the middle of the Great Depression. Shell Oil offers him a service station, completely rent-free. And, to make a little extra cash, he starts serving meals to travelers right out of his own living quarters at the station. And his pan-fried chicken, well, it became a local sensation.
He spent years just perfecting his craft. And then, in 1940, at 50 years old, he finalized his now legendary secret recipe of 11 herbs and spices. But then he made another crucial discovery. Using a pressure fryer could cook his chicken perfectly in a fraction of the time. This was the game changer.
But just as his restaurant was finally becoming a real destination, disaster struck. The government built a brand new highway, Interstate 75, that completely bypassed his location. His customers, they just vanished overnight. At 65 years old, he was forced to sell, left with almost nothing except his savings and a tiny Social Security check.
You see, his world-famous franchise model, it wasn't some grand vision. It was an act of pure desperation. He got in his car and just drove across America, sleeping in the back seat, cooking his chicken for any restaurant owner who would listen, hoping someone would just say yes. And his deal was simple. Use my recipe, and you pay me 4 cents for every chicken you sell.
And this simple model, it exploded. But the growth was so fast, it just became way too big for the aging colonel to handle all by himself.
So in 1964, at the age of 73, he sold the Kentucky Fried Chicken Corporation for $2 million. Now that was a huge sum at the time, but the deal had a catch. He had to stay on as the salaried face of the company, the living, breathing brand ambassador.
And well, this turned out to be a recipe for disaster. The new owners, they immediately started cutting costs to maximize profits. And Sanders, who was obsessed with quality, was absolutely furious. He very quickly became the company's harshest and most public critic.
And he wasn't shy about it either. He would make these surprise visits to KFC locations, and if the food wasn't up to his standards, he would loudly tell everyone exactly what he thought, sometimes even pushing the food right onto the floor.
And this right here, this brilliantly illustrates the central conflict. It was a battle between the founder's soul, his obsession with a quality product and real hospitality, and the corporation's relentless drive for the bottom line.
The relationship got so toxic that they actually ended up suing each other. He sued them for misusing his image to promote stuff he hated, and they turned around and sued him for libel for publicly trashing their food. The man was literally at war with the empire he created.
So after a life of such incredible struggle, and then this unbelievable success, what can we take away from the story of the real Colonel Sanders?
First, and this is the big one, it is never, ever too late. He started the business that would make him a global icon at 65 years old. That's an age when most people are deep into retirement. His biggest chapter didn't even begin until his life was supposedly over.
Next, his refusal to compromise on quality was his defining trait. That fiery passion, the very thing that made him so difficult to work with, is exactly why the brand became so powerful in the first place. You know, he cared more about the chicken than he did about the money.
And finally, you are your brand. The white suit, the goatee, the whole Colonel title, it was all an act, a persona he adopted. But he didn't just sell a product. He embodied this idea of Southern hospitality and authenticity that was just unforgettable.
And he left us with some truly memorable, fiery words. This quote about the gravy, it's not just a complaint. It's a testament to his belief that food should be made with integrity, a principle he fought for until the very, very end.
Which leaves you with one final question to think about. The 11 herbs and spices, they made the chicken taste good, for sure. But it was his relentless, stubborn, never-give-up persistence that actually built an empire. So maybe that was the true secret recipe all along. Thanks for watching.